the moment the Ionians realize that the Persians are going to go for Miletus, they decide they meet at a place called the Pan-Ionion, which is this sort of religious base dedicated to the god Poseidon, near an area called Mycale, and it's a shared area by all the Ionians where they have a festival there, and so they resolve that they're not going to fight the Persians on land because this would effectively be suicide because the Persians have brought so many overwhelming land forces. And the last time that the Greeks fought the Persians on land at the Battle of Ephesus, they were utterly routed, and they'd most likely be sallying outside of the safety of Miletus's walls. So what
Because
they decide to do,
Miletus is quite a well fortified city.
yeah, it's Miletus at this point does have city walls, and so as most Greek polis do, apart from apparently Sparta, but we can go into that on a later episode. But Miletus is as well defended as most Greek city-states, and ancient warfare at this point in the early 5th century BC is not that technic it's not that technically developed.
It's
It
either
is it isn't like the
starve them out
Peloponnesian.
or
Yeah, you're most likely going to starve them out and use the 600 ships the Persians brought in to blockade and prevent any intervening force from coming in with supplies. So this
I
isn't
guess
like the
it's fairly
Peloponnesian War. Yeah, this isn't like the Peloponnesian War where the Thebans build a flamethrower and like destroy Plataea's walls. So there
or
aren't
you
many
could talk
options in this
about
scenario.
now I was also going to say or you could be like Demetrius, Antigonus,
Yeah,
and have the Heliopolis.
yeah. And this is far before the age where Demetrius builds the Heliopolis, the mega super siege tower, which, by the way, incidentally, also didn't work. And the Rhodians end up building the Colossus of Rhodes out of its captured remains. But
Almost feels like Nelson's
yeah,
to coffin being from the flagship of the Lorient Craig.
yeah. But the Persians at this point don't have many options when besieging Miletus. They can attempt to assault the walls, however, as I said, the Greeks are accurate in believing that a lot of the Persian troops are quite lightly armored, and so they would end up suffering quite heavy casualties. Or probably the easier option is to gather all of your soldiers, a massive enough force that creates a deterrence to prevent other cities from intervening, and to sit outside of the walls and sit outside of Miletus's harbor, and just starve the city out into surrender. Because either they surrender and the Persians will be able to accept the surrender of the instigator of the revolt, thereby putting an end to it, their subjugated receiving their subjugated vassal again, or they weaken the defenders to the point where they can make a successful assault and they sack the city and make an example out of it. So this is the Persian plan, basically. However, the Greek plan is to prevent the the Persian naval blockade, and they gather all of the ships of Ionia, all of their warships. We've got warships coming from Samos, Miletus's major rival. The Milesians obviously have their ships. Erythrae, Phocaea also brings ships. All of the Ionians contribute triremes to this collective pan-Ionian fleet, and the sum total comes up to about 353 ships. It's a pretty
So pretty
major
impressive.
force. Yeah,
And would it be fair to say, since it's the trireme, right? Like that
yeah,
is the predominant ship. The Carthaginians
yeah,
have not yet invaded the quadriremes or quinquiremes. So each ship is like what, 300 people, including the rowers?
yeah. Each ship will be about crews of 200, as well as detachment of marines
Yeah,
and
so I've just
archers.
broadly
Yeah,
put
yeah,
300, including everybody, and your command
yeah,
crew as well.
yeah. Chances chances are militaries are never really operating at full crewing or capacity. So you're never going to have a full trireme, but it's expect like best case scenario is that it's that number.
But maybe we could just, I think, reasonably guesstimate if they had been planning for this assault for 2 years after their disaster in Caria.
Yeah,
It's fair to say at least they would be like, theoretically, we're talking about around a 300 maximum, maybe
yeah,
like 275, 280 types on average.
yeah,
So still pretty well equipped.
yeah. All of these ships are well equipped and also ready ready for battle. The Persians want to put an end to this camp, put an end to this rebellion that's been plaguing their western border and has been drawing in external Greek support. They want to kill it as soon as possible, but it has raged out of control for about 6 years. And all that while, for all those 6 years, the Persians are in a state of precarity, since if this area is revolting, then other areas might also think maybe if the Persians are tied up fighting in this part of the map, I can sort of rebel and fight the Persians in my part of the map, and I might have a greater chance of success. and and the Greeks, they want to defend their independence. The Ionians do not want to come back on the Persian yoke again because they know the consequences that the Persians are going to punish them the moment Miletus falls. And thus the Ionians have a war council where they decide on what the battle plan at Miletus is going to be. And the Greeks are sort of encamped at an island by the name of Lade, which doesn't exist anymore because changes in geography and all that. But in the classical period, there is an island called Lade just off the coast of Miletus, where various generals make speeches, but the most convincing of them is a man by the name of Dionysius the Phocian, a general who brings in about 3 ships, and he makes the following speech. Our affairs, men of Ionia, stand on the edge of a razor, whether to be free men or slaves, and runaway slaves at that. If you now consent to endure hardships, you will have toil for the present time, but it will be in your power to overcome your enemies and gain freedom. But if you will be weak and disorderly, I see nothing that can save you from paying the penalty to the king for your rebellion. Believe me and entrust yourselves to me. I promise you that, if the gods deal fairly with us, either our enemies shall not meet us in battle, or if they do, they shall be utterly vanquished. He makes the following rousing speech, and the Ionians agree to give him command of the whole Greek fleet. Now, I just want to direct your attention to when he
Do
says,
you mind? Uh, it's kind of crazy, like how smaller contingents in Greek fleets tend to get a lot more influence.
yeah,
Even like before Salamis, might I add.
yeah,
And if I'm not mistaken, Lesbos, Miletus, and Chios are at least almost 70 to 75% of the entire Ionian fleet, like just from these 3 cities. So
yeah,
it's quite
it,
shocking that
yeah,
these guys don't get the command.
well, yeah, this comes up. But I also want to draw people's attention to, but the when he says, "But if you will be weak and disorderly," this is this is very important to remember for what happens next. After Dionysius, under his command, the Greek fleet then begin practicing collective maneuvers at sea, and Dionysius is a pretty hard disciplinarian and sort of tactical trainer. He has the Greek fleet take part in these exercises basically all day, and he doesn't even let them come back to shore in order to rest. They remain they remain sleeping on the triremes for several days. Turns out this backfires because the logic, the reasoning and rationale that I can see for Dionysius choosing to do this is that he's showing that the Ionians are a disciplined force at sea in front of the Persians, and that the Persians will expect a fight. And this is potentially a fight that the Persians might lose, in which case the Persians will be losing 600 ships. So the Persians have brought a lot of skin in the game by bringing their entire fleet over to Miletus.
I
Second of
think
all,
he
by
might have
having all,
forgotten one little detail though.
yeah,
Triremes are not exactly seaworthy.
Yeah, exactly. Being on a trireme is not very fun. Uh, it's actually there's a passage in Thucydides where he talks about an Athenian blockade on the island of Pylos, and one of the problems that the Athenians have is they're blockading these Spartans trapped on this island, and they're sort of depriving them of food and trying to weaken these Spartan defenders.